everyone. Welcome to this year's Northwest Youth Careers Expo hosted by the Portland Workforce Alliance. Today we're going to cover the ins and outs of how to write a resume even if you don't have any formal or traditional work experience. My name is Dylan Elizabeth Cabilas. I'm a multidisciplinary creative and designer, and I will be your speaker today. For today's agenda, we'll be diving into resumes. We'll talk about what a resume is and why they're so important. We'll go over resume sections and formatting. We'll take a quick look at digital portfolios, and to finish off the session, I'll leave you with a few helpful resources. So what is a resume? A resume is a one-page document that communicates who you are, what you can do, and why you're a good fit for the scholarship or job you're applying for. Oftentimes, your resume serves as your first impression to whoever's reviewing it. The purpose of your resume is to convey your skills and experiences as quickly as you possibly can. Admissions officers and hiring managers are busy and sometimes have as little as 7 to 9 seconds to review your resume. This is why it is so important to make sure you include all relevant information in an organized, clear, and concise way. Why is a resume so important? Well, your resume can make looking for and finding mentors faster and easier. Your resume allows you to demonstrate your interests and match your skills to job requirements so you can land that summer job. And most importantly, having a well-written resume will help you get vital scholarships that can pay for future college tuition and expenses. Beyond this, more often than not, a resume is required for most academic and professional applications, and you're likely to use one throughout your career journey. Now let's cover the sections of a resume using this simple resume template. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that each person's resume will be different. In fact, every resume you write is likely to be slightly different than the last. With that said, every resume should have a header, a summary, your education, your experience, and any awards, honors, skills, or interests you'd like to highlight. Don't worry, at the end of this presentation, I'll have this template available for you to download and use on your own. The first section of a resume is the header. Here you should include your first and last name. You can choose to increase the size of your name in your header, but you should avoid using too many different sizes of text throughout your resume in general. Next, include your current location in terms of city and state. It's not required, and I don't recommend including your full personal address. Lastly, you should include your contact information, whether that be an active phone number, your email, or a link to a digital portfolio. If you choose to include your email, be sure it is clearly directed towards you. Using your first initial and last name works perfectly. The next section of a resume is the summary. This is a brief overview of who you are and is similar to a personal statement if you've ever written one. Here, summarize your skills and strengths as they relate to your career goals. You can also describe the type of position that you're pursuing, but you want to avoid listing the specific job title and focus more on the desired skills or experience that you're actually looking for. Read what you've written with another person and make sure your sentences make sense when read out loud. The final summary should be no longer than 2 to 4 sentences. Next is your education section. Here you should include your high school's name and location. List your expected year of graduation and your GPA if it's above a 3.0. If you happen to have any outside classes or certifications like a food handler's card or CPR, you can go ahead and include them here as well. The next section is the most important section of your resume, which is your experience. This may include work, leadership, or volunteer experience. In some cases, having relevant experience can sometimes compensate for a low GPA. That's not to say you should ever expect this, but more so to point out how important it is to write relevant and effective bullet points for the stories you choose to tell. So what does experience mean, or more so, what counts as experience? The truth is, any paid or unpaid experiences count. Maybe you work at a local grocery store after school, walk your neighbor's dogs on the weekends, Maybe you volunteer to pick up trash or spend time in your local community garden. Or maybe you're a part of a school club and enjoy being in leadership roles. All of these activities would count as relevant experience where you practice and learn valuable skills. So how do you reflect all the awesome stuff you do on your resume? By writing effective bullet points. You always want to start with an action verb, then provide context to the situation, and finally quantify your impact. Go beyond the list of your titles and duties. Focus on describing and quantifying the impact of your experience instead. Use a number or percentage as often as possible to reflect the results of your impact. This helps paint a picture of your story while also showing that you understand the value of producing results. Remember, people don't know you. Although you were a Spanish club president, the fact that you founded the club with your peers and further went beyond your responsibilities by coordinating a fundraising event might actually be more valuable to the person reviewing your resume. So now that we know how to incorporate your experience into your resume, let's look at some formatting. For each experience, you'll want to include the name and location of the organization or company along with a short description. Next, you want to include your title and role and aim to have at least 2 to 3 bullet points per experience. You want to prioritize the most relevant experiences and list them in order of relevancy, with the most recent experiences being at the top of each section. Make sure your format convention is consistent and supports the organization of the information. The final sections of your resume are optional. You may want to highlight academic accomplishments and activities, including being on the honor roll, being in clubs or sports activities, taking AP or IB classes, and any other extracurricular activities you may want to include. Here you should list any computer skills and languages you speak, along with the level of proficiency you speak the language. When highlighting awards and honors, attempt to provide descriptions as often as possible. Knowing why you received an award is more important than the title of the award itself. Now that we've reviewed all the sections, I want to wrap up resumes with some final formatting tips. Firstly, limit your resume to 1 page and avoid clutter at all costs. A poorly formatted resume will reflect poorly upon you. Next, pick an easy-to-read font and avoid going any smaller than 10 to 12 points. Use 1-inch margins all around the page and list experiences in reverse chronological order with the most recent experience at the top of each section. Lastly, don't forget to proofread your resume and ensure your formatting is consistent across the entire document before sending it off. Now, have you ever heard of a CV? Well, it stands for Curriculum Vitae and is often referred to as a CV. Your CV represents a full history of your academic credentials and is often multiple pages, unlike your resume. But hold on, I know what you're thinking. Dylan, why do I even care about a longer resume? Because I'm telling you something I wish someone told me when I was in high school. Each time you create a resume for a new opportunity, you should tailor the stories and experiences you highlight to relate as closely to the mission and vision of that specific school, role, or company. In the end, the person reviewing your resume is looking for the best fit for the job, and you want to make sure your resume continues to stand out down to the last decision. So how does a CV matter in all of this? Well, based on my experience, putting together a new resume for every application is exhausting and time-consuming. By starting an ongoing document to store all of your experience, it can make it easier to put together resumes quickly in the future by having something to start with. Basically, your CV can become a master template of sorts. Now let's talk about digital portfolios. Digital portfolios are a unique and engaging way to visualize your story and projects. Let's start with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a popular platform where you can create your online resume. Here you can find and connect with mentors as well as explore new careers and companies. LinkedIn is free and easy to sign up and learn how to use. Next up, Behance. Behance is another free online portfolio that was made specifically for creatives. Here you can showcase your work and find an array of new creative communities. I highly recommend Behance for any visual artists or designers as it is a fast and effective way to showcase your work and process professionally. Lastly, a website. Creating your own website as a digital portfolio or another creative project is a great way to learn a valuable skill and show prospective colleges and recruiters what you're working on. Websites like Wix and Squarespace are free and fairly easy to use given their intuitive drag and drop builders. More advanced tools like WordPress will require more knowledge but can also offer a wider range of capabilities if website design is something you're interested in. The key takeaways from today's presentation are to always tailor your resume specifically to the scholarship or job you're applying for. When writing about your experiences, focus on the impact you made instead of your title or tasks. And lastly, look to see how a digital portfolio could work for you. Whether you're interested in science, writing, mathematics, or art, a website can be a powerful tool to communicate who you are and what you do. If you'd like to download the resume template we looked at during this presentation, please scan the QR code on the left. For additional resume writing resources, please scan the QR code on the right. Lastly, if you have any more questions, please reach out to your school career counselor. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope you learned something about resumes, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the PWA Northwest Youth Careers Expo.